Hey, what's up guys, it's Jess. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a very exciting topic I am talking about, and that is how I got my internship at NASA. If you all have been following me for a while, you know that my literal entire life goal is to work at NASA, and having this opportunity to be an intern there has been a dream come true for me. I first got interested in astronomy when I went on camping trips with my dad. Everyone always assumes because I love astronomy that I'm good at pointing out where things are in the sky, but I'm not. I'm horrible. I often think that I'm dyslexic when I try to look at things in the sky and try and identify them. When I went on these trips with my dad, I was amazed at how easy it was for him to identify these things in the sky. To put it into perspective, something that looked like a glowing dot in my eyes looked like Mars to him, and something that looked like a bunch of glowing dots looked like the Big Dipper. My grandpa wanted to work at NASA, my dad wanted to work at NASA, he even majored in physics in college, but the material was too hard and he ended up switching to a different major, therefore not completing his dream of working at NASA. So at a young age, I pretty much determined that I was going to be the one to do it for him. Even though initially I was following his passion, it quickly turned into my own, and I purely love astronomy and physics now. Not so much physics. When I was a freshman in high school, I immediately joined our astronomy club, and what was so amazing is that the school had its very own observatory. I spent my Friday nights in the school observatory, and at the end of my senior year, I was able to write on the observatory walls, and I wrote, "See you soon, NASA," and signed my name. When I entered the University of Washington as a freshman, I knew that I wanted to major in astronomy and physics. Sophomore year is where things really took off for me. During my first quarter, I enrolled in this class called Pre-Map, which is Astro 192. Pre-Map is a class designed for underrepresented students in STEM. So I applied as a woman, other people applied with different ethnic minority backgrounds, etc. The first part of the course is learning about different coding skills, such as Unix, that are very applicable to what you'll do with astronomy. The second part of the course is where you get paired with a graduate student mentor, and having that one-on-one mentorship, you are able to dive into undergraduate research. For my first research project, I categorized the habitability of exoplanets. I loved the connection I had with my research mentor. He was super understanding and he was super involved and really taught me some of the skills necessary to get to where I am today. So shout out to Rudy, you are the best. I really appreciate you. Pre-Map is only designed to be a quarter long, but I knew that I wanted to continue research, so I simply just asked and said, I want to continue research, can I do that? Luckily, I was able to continue that research for 2 more quarters after Pre-Map officially ended. For my next research experience, I took this class called Physics 294, I believe, which is basically a seminar learning about the different types of research going on at the University of Washington. All of the presentations were super interesting, but it just wasn't what I personally wanted to do for research until one guest speaker came along and introduced me to oceanography mixed with physics. If I wasn't already double majoring in astronomy and physics, I definitely would have added in marine bio or oceanography or something like that. The guest speaker left his contact information at the end of the presentation, and I immediately emailed him. Very quickly after that email was sent, a faculty member reached out to me saying that they had an opportunity for me to do research involving oceanography and physics and astronomy. With this project, I researched the phenomenon known as tides and connected it to astronomy. Being a part of this research eventually led me to applying for a NASA grant this summer. Over the summer, I did receive a NASA grant to do full-time research and present this research at a virtual symposium. And now we get to the first day of school. I'm on my way home from class, standing on the bus, and I get a notification on my phone saying it's an email from NASA. Knowing how important NASA is to me, you can imagine the shock literally electrocuting my body as I saw this notification. I read the email, very short, very straight to the point. Hi, are you available for an interview today? This email was completely unanticipated, but I knew I had to just take this opportunity, and I was like, yep, I'm ready at 8. Basically, we had an interview, and the next day, I got an offer to be a NASA JPL intern. That is just so surreal to me that I can say, I intern at NASA. Currently, I am still doing the internship, so I will be sure to post a follow-up video after the internship is over to talk about my experience. But now I'm going to be specifically talking about how I think I got the internship and any advice I have for people who want to apply. The reason why this email came as a shock to me is because I put in my application at NASA months prior. With other research positions and school going on, I almost essentially forgot that I had even submitted the application, hence why I got the email and I was like, what the heck is happening? So one thing I'll say is that it might take a while after applying to actually hear back from someone, but I would say the process of actually getting the internship after getting that initial "we want you, let's interview you," it was fairly quick. Literally less than 24 hours. The application was very straightforward and very short. Basically, you only need an unofficial transcript and your resume. I'm going to be straight up with everyone, and hopefully this can provide a bit of hope for you all. I do not have a perfect transcript in the slightest regard. In comparison to the students at the University of Washington, I have an extremely low GPA. I have a 3.57. Now, this is quite different from my GPA in high school, which was like a 4.3 or something like that. But GPA does not matter to the extent you might think it does. Which leads into my next discussion, which is your resume. Even though my GPA is not the best, I have crafted my resume to include a variety of skills and experiences that I have that make me a competitive applicant. I don't mind showing you all my resume, so I'm just going to go through it right now. What I always mention when I talk about resume building is to list skills and experiences that are applicable to the position you're applying for. One of the reasons why I think my resume is so strong is because all of the experiences, all of the skills, all of the coursework can be applicable to me as a potential NASA intern. If we take a look at education, I'm majoring in a Bachelor of Arts in Astronomy and Comprehensive Physics, and while I don't have the best GPA, I still had something to show that I was on Dean's List for 4 quarters. Moving on to work experience, I listed that I was an academic tutor. I mentioned what coursework I tutored students in, and as you can see, they're very STEM heavy: astronomy, physics, rocket engineering, math, etc. Next, we get into my academic experience, and this is the largest portion of my resume. One of the first things I included on my resume was holding the position of a FIG leader at the University of Washington. A FIG leader is someone who independently teaches a class full of 20 or so undergraduate freshmen. This position highlighted my leadership skills and my ability to communicate well with others so that we can see success over a period of time. Next, I have listed my experience as an astronomy undergraduate researcher. What I highlighted here was my use of coding. I used Python and related software such as vPlanet to do this related to my research. Astronomy is a field that's very coding heavy, and it's very attractive on a resume to see your display of coding skills. Next, I listed my positions as a physics undergraduate researcher and a summer undergraduate researcher. I highlighted my use of Excel and MATLAB. I also included that I wrote a short research paper. And another thing I mentioned was that I communicated my research to symposium attendees via a poster presentation. What I learned from this research position, at least in my opinion, is that research is only valuable if you can communicate it well. I'm sure NASA also liked that I received a NASA grant to do this research. Next is my related coursework. Now, some people don't include it in their resume just because it takes up too much room. It might be unnecessary. I personally do just because I want to show how heavy I have dived into STEM curriculum. I have listed all the physics courses I've taken, all the math, all the astronomy, and also additional STEM courses I've taken as well. Next is skills, and as I mentioned earlier, I do think it's important to highlight your experience in coding if you have any, so I listed all of the languages I knew and my level of understanding. Next, I'm getting into the second page of my resume, and I wanted to keep it shorter. I want it to be 1 page, but since it is 2 pages, I tried to keep that section really short, so I only included that I was the Girls Who Code president. The last section is about additional activities and achievements. Now, if I did need to make this resume 1 page, I probably would eliminate this section, but since there was no requirement that it had to be 1 page, I kept it. In activities, you can see I mentioned League of Astronomers, library tutor, peer leaders, homeroom mentor, etc. Reflecting on how I crafted my resume, I believe I have effectively displayed the skills that make me a competitive applicant to be a NASA intern. I think one of the overarching key points is that everything I've done, extracurriculars, skills, coursework, can be applied to me as a NASA intern. Additionally, I think that the skills I've acquired and the experiences I've had show that I have a desire and willingness to learn. also the ability for me to connect with others, to receive mentorship from others, and to also be a leader in my own regard. So that was the end of reflecting on my resume, and now I'm going to be talking about the interview portion of applying for a NASA internship. I received this email very abruptly, and the interview was conducted very shortly after. Now, you may be thinking, how on earth did you prepare for this interview when you literally had like 3 hours? The secret here is that I have been preparing for this interview since high school. You might be thinking, well, what do you mean? Did you practice an interview? Did you look up what kind of questions they'd ask? No. What I mean by preparing for this interview since high school was that since then, I learned how to be a confident, effective communicator. You can see the smartest people have the best GPA, the best skills, the best transcript, all that stuff. And if they can't communicate well in an interview, they might not get the position. Even starting in late middle school, I took the opportunities to be a leader, to be a public speaker. In high school, I was a part of the poetry club where I had to display emotion through the words that I had memorized from a poem that I've written. I also competed in Mandarin speaking contests where I not only had to write an essay and speak it in front of judges, but I had to do that in a completely other language than English. I even spoke at my high school graduation, and that is a lot of people considering the amount of students and all of the guests that they brought. So what I mean when I say that I've always been preparing for this interview is that I've taken opportunities that have made me a more comfortable and confident speaker. I'm not sure if this is the standard NASA interview, but basically he just asked me to describe myself and my research experience. Luckily, I have a bunch of research experience to talk about, so that was really easy. He did introduce his project to me, which I will admit I knew nothing about. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I personally admitted that I didn't know much about the research currently. I simply didn't know. But I was extremely excited to get started. One of the things my mentor told me after I got accepted was that he really appreciates when someone is able to admit that they don't know something. This seems very straightforward, but I feel like it's hard for students to sometimes admit that they don't know something for fear that it makes them look bad. That's where you follow up with the "I'm excited to learn, let's get started so I can start researching it." I honestly think the most important thing that made me stand out was how enthusiastic I was to get involved at NASA, and I made that very, very clear in my interview. To wrap up this video, I first want to thank my research mentor for believing in me and pushing me every single day to become a better researcher and a better student and a better person in general. I have learned so many skills, not even related to astronomy, just life skills in general within the first 2 weeks of me being at NASA, so I'm extremely grateful for that opportunity. Additionally, I'd like to thank all of the support and resources I've had along the way, and that includes many, many people, including my family, my research mentors, etc. In summary of how to get a NASA internship, get involved in undergraduate research, craft a very detailed resume that highlights your skills such as coding languages, and also work on your communication skills that allows you to be a confident speaker. That is all for today's video. I know that was a long one, but I did cover a lot, and if you still have any questions, feel free to message me in the comment section down below, and I would be happy to answer them or make a separate video. I am also running out of video ideas, and I want to post more consistently, so if there's something you'd like to see, please leave that in the comment section down below. I will see you all in my next video. Bye!